You're listening to the RTI Press Pass powered by Rocky Top Insider.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast. Today is Wednesday, December 10th. We're making our way through the winter over here at Rocky Top Insider with a lot of Tennessee football to talk about today. My name is Rick Butler, joined by my two good friends, Ryan Schumpert and Ryan Sylvia. Maybe there's another Ryan who's coming to Rocky Top at some point. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. But obviously happy to have these two guys in here with me to talk a little Tennessee football, to talk all the latest happenings in the world of Tennessee athletics. Good morning to you both. It's been a little bit of time since we have all been on the press pass together. Shump, I'll start with you. How's it going and how you doing?
Doing well. Not enjoying the cold, as you mentioned, with winter. Admiring Sylvia and I are matching today, too, with our kind of green olive crew necks on, but doing well on this Wednesday morning.
Yes, Sylvia, what about you?
I'm doing good. I just don't have – I'm not as excited about the Music City Bowl as you are, I guess. I don't have my Titans merch on. Just fired up to get to Nissan Stadium. True. I mean, thinking about it right now, it's almost certainly going to be the last time I'll step foot in that stadium.
Well, we were talking about it before. I don't know if I'm going to be covering the game in person for Rock Top Insider, but a lot of people, Music City Bowl, big game, obviously. Everybody loves the bowl games these days.
Super Bowl.
Not a lot of people are built like me who will be at Nissan Stadium 2 days prior, which is kind of crazy to play another football game.
Wow.
2 days prior to get this matchup. Tennessee Titans, New Orleans Saints, December 28th.
That's
absolute cinema.
Absolute cinema.
You're scouting the stadium.
I will say this. That's the type of thing that they should show to like prisoners of war. Titans Saints.
Yeah, it's not good.
That just puts them in the torture chamber.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to say that the two times the Titans have won this year, though, the Saints have also won that week?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Definitely last week. I think the first week too. Caleb, friend of the show, Saints fan. I'm pretty sure he's been upset both times because he wants the Saints to get a better pick, and every time the Titans win, the Saints also win.
The Saints, unfortunately, did they win this week? They did. Yeah. They beat the Bucs. I thought they ended up losing that. Yeah. I thought they lost. Yeah. I thought they blew that game. Let's see. Do we remember the Titans win over was it October 5th? Is that when the Titans beat the Cardinals? Because that's Saints beat the Giants that day.
October 5th.
Yeah. Yep.
That's funny. Well, I mean, it's an immovable object versus stoppable force or whatever.
These two teams win and lose on the same day. Someone's got to give.
Yeah.
September 28th, Nissan Stadium.
One of these juggernauts has to lose.
I was watching the game against the Browns while we were filming the Rocky Top Insider Lowdown with Bob Baskerville and Chris Lowe on Sunday afternoon. So I saw the Titans beat the Browns. What is that situation for you guys? Are you guys upset at that because it takes you away from the potential number 1 overall draft pick? Or are you like, hey, at this point, we're just trying to rack up, any sort of positivity from this season?
I'm pretty sure we still have the first pick. Right. I think we're still
tied. I'm not sure if we hold the tiebreaker. Yeah, I mean, I think right now, like, I'm not full into tank mode of wanting to lose every game yet. And this was a big game for narrative sakes. Like, and it already was because Shedeur Sanders put up big stats and Cam Ward didn't. Just people just spewing Shedeur Sanders love. It would have been all the worse if we lost the game. So that, from a propaganda war, I kind of wanted a win from that standpoint. And I'm not fully in tank mode yet. Part of that being, like, if Arch Manning had looked unbelievable this year and was going to come out, I think I'd be much more in tank mode so we could sell the first overall pick for a king's ransom. But since there's not, like, I don't really know. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of value in the first overall pick this year, at least comparatively. So because of that, I'm not quite in full tank mode.
Looking at tankathon.com, the Titans would have the third pick right now.
Love Tankathon.
It looks like the Giants. I mean, I don't know how you decide. I guess it's what is it? Strength of schedule, I think, is the tiebreaker. Maybe, I don't know. the Titans have the third pick behind the Giants and Raiders. But like Shumper was just
Raiders fan?
Raiders
Dog
fan.
a Raiders fan?
Not happy. Like Shumper was saying though, you guys can take it from here.
That's good stuff.
That is good stuff. We have a guest on the podcast today. It's Ryan's dog, who is vocal.
Very vocal.
I was just gonna say I want to keep my glorious King Cam Ward happy, and if that means winning a couple games, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, there is value in that.
Let's see what else, guys. I do have a little bit of bad news here on this podcast, and Shumpa, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong here. The unfortunate thing is that the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass did not make Spotify's top 10 podcasts for the year of 2025. And that was a disappointing thing to me. That was one of our big goals. We not only wanted to be the sports world, that's one thing. We wanted to be one of the top 10 podcasts in all of Spotify. We did not make that. We came up short of our goal. Shump, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do blame it on Sylvia a good bit. I mean, this was kind of our X factor to take us to that next level. And if we didn't hit that goal, it might be time to look for somebody new as a potential replacement so that we can hit that future goal next year. So I do just want to point that out there. I do want to, say that we recognize it. We understand it. We didn't hit our goal. We weren't in the top 10 podcasts. I think that Dak Shepard had us beat. Unfortunate, but it's just the reality. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know if it's on Sylvia or Jack. It's on one of the two. Because, Jack
it might be on Jack Foster.
Bowed out of the podcast, the non-football podcast this fall. So, look, I don't know who you put it on. I know, to quote Alec Baldwin, I know someone has to be held responsible. And I know that person's not me.
No.
But I don't know who that person is. I know it's not me. I know it's not you, Rick.
Thank you.
But whether it's Sylvia, whether it's Jack, whether it's some other force out there, somebody needs to be held responsible for this.
I agree. Amy Poehler's podcast, it needs to be taken down. And I thought that was going to be our job this year. Turns out we came up short.
We've got to be at least 11th though. So we're knocking on the door.
I do.
We're not right on the door.
I think we're kicking down the door.
As a great coach once said, we are so unbelievably close. We are so close.
Yeah.
We're so I'm gone now, but this team's set up to make the playoffs next year because we were so close.
That is, Hugh Freeze has had the greatest year of all time, in my opinion, because him after every loss being like, man, are we close? Man, are we close? And then as you just said, after getting fired, and then everyone hyping up Alex Golesh's team and being like, man, this team, they could be pretty all right. We'll see what happens. And being like, yeah, I mean, I gave him a great stepping.
This team. If this team's not in the
team after me,
if this team's not deep in the playoff hunt next year, something's gone terribly wrong coaching wise.
Man, were we close?
Because I had it close.
And they were close. I don't know how it finished, but there was my favorite graphic from this year is like 8-9 weeks into the season. And it was, if you flipped the result of every one score game, what the playoff picture would look like. And Auburn was like the 2 seed in it. And an Auburn fan was like, oh my God, he was right. We were so close.
I mean, the Alabama game was
hilarious.
one score. I'm trying to think who else they played late in the year. The Vanderbilt game. Now the Vanderbilt game was an overtime game.
Yeah.
One-score game.
The Kentucky game was not. That was tough.
Kentucky game was 10-3. Arkansas was not.
Oh, I'm thinking of Kentucky.
Here it is.
You're right.
If you flip every single one-score game, Auburn goes from 5-7 to 11-1.
Oh my gosh.
That shouldn't be right though, because they lost by 10 to Georgia and 9 to Arkansas. Now those games were close.
This is from College Football Reddit when I Googled it, so blame them.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. We can put
Blaming Reddit.
the onus on them. No, I'm such an idiot. They won the Arkansas game.
Okay.
So yes,
11-1. 11-1. They were so close.
I won't say
it is. I mean, we joke about it
I get
because
in
it's a hilarious thing that Hugh Freeze just kept on saying, especially after he got fired. Like, that's so unfair to Alex Golesh. But it does, I think, when you start to look at next year, like, it does matter for Tennessee's sake. If they play an Auburn team, do you think, first year coach at home, like, this should be an easy win? And don't get me wrong, it's a game Tennessee should win, and it's probably their second easiest home SEC game, but probably harder than it looks like on paper.
If I was an Auburn fan, I'd be clinging on to it so hard. We were so close, and the numbers back it up. I will say, last thing on this note, and then we can actually talk some Tennessee football. Arkansas, they go from 2-10 to 8-4.
Yeah.
Very different season. Another
Arkansas, and I don't know how it ended, but at one point, like real late in the year, to your point too, Arkansas had won just 2 games, and they were still positive in point differential on the season, and they lost to Notre Dame. You might remember by like 40.
A lot.
Like they did have that one loss where they got destroyed, and they still were positive, being like 2-8 on point
That's
differential.
hilarious.
That is
won by
wild.
so much in the 2 nobody games that they won and lost in such
Yeah.
close games.
I think Tennessee's still 8-4, by the way. Just a quick, if my math is right, if you flip the results. Because I think they only played in 4 one-score games this year. And it was, they would have beat Georgia, but then they would have lost at Mississippi State. And then they would have lost to Arkansas, but they would have beat Oklahoma. And I think that's it.
Yeah,
So-
that sounds right.
So it
There you
evens out. Hold on real quick. Just let me write this down. Ryan Shumpert can't read. All right. Got that down for my notes, just in case that needs to be brought back up. All right. Let's go ahead and move into the program.
I can't see color. I'm colorblind. It was green and red on the ESPN page.
Okay. Okay.
It's a tough time of year for me.
Yeah, it is. He's color illiterate.
Ignore the W and L. It's the colors.
It's the colors.
It is. I can't fault you for that. I'm gonna scratch this out. I'd feel too bad saying that about you. All right. So on today's episode of the show, got a couple of things to talk about. Obviously, we did not have a podcast last week because it was the start of the early signing period. So we kind of let all that kind of go through its tracks to see where Tennessee wound up. Tennessee lines up at both number 7 in On3 Sports and 247 Sports' recruiting rankings. We might jump into that a little bit later. A couple days later.
Number 4 on 247.
Number 4 on 247.
You're looking at composite
rankings. That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Hey,
My biggest pet peeve.
you got to look at whichever one keeps you higher. I think that
Exactly.
is the important one to look at. That's a
is-
Russell Smith verbiage right there.
It is 247's fault, though, because if you click on it, says nowhere, unless you're looking at the literal URL, it doesn't say composite anywhere, essentially. And you have to take the composite out of the URL and just put team rankings, and then it'll show you 247's rankings, which has Tennessee at number 4. However, we'll see what the legend-based situation looks like.
That's right. That was a big one. And you know, I do see the websites can be kind of a little bit tricky to figure out sometimes because every single year, and really even through the recruiting process, you see a lot of fans and they're very confused. They're like, well, you know, 247 has this listed with 3 5-stars, but then you click it and it's only 2 5-stars. Well, you know, again, you're looking at the composite versus the publication's actual rankings themselves. So it can get a little bit tricky sometime. And again, that legend-based situation was a fascinating one. And to this point, at least on Wednesday, have not seen any kind of update or anything since that flurry of everything that happened towards the end of last week. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Again, national or early signing period comes and goes last week. Then you get to Sunday and you get the news that Tennessee is heading to the Music City Bowl. The Vols will take on Illinois, which was funny because for a fan base that just got beat by the Fighting Illini the night before in Nashville, now you tell that fan base that they got to take on that school's football team in the same city, in the same month. Obviously, fans weren't too thrilled about the Music City Bowl. There were plenty of people who were excited that they might have a better opportunity to go see their Vols play at the end of the year. But I think for a lot of people, it was kind of a disappointing moment when you get tagged to the Music City Bowl. Granted, I don't know how much opinions would have changed if Tennessee had gone to the Gator Bowl, if people just felt like that was head and shoulders more prestigious, or, you know, if there was just kind of a lot of things to be down about following the end of the football season. But you certainly did see a little bit of resistance to that on Facebook or on Twitter, as you're always going to see. And then you go, one day later after the Music City Bowl, and you get to the big news of the week and kind of where we'll start things off for today. And that is the coaching staff change that Tennessee made on Monday afternoon, sometime around then. And that Josh Heupel makes kind of the first firing to his staff by parting ways with Tim Banks, who had been with Tennessee for 5 years. He had started on Josh Heupel's inaugural staff in 2021. And there were a lot of challenges that Tim Banks, that Tennessee defense, Tennessee overall had to overcome in those first couple of years. You did see a little bit of steady improvement through his first couple of years. And then you obviously get to 2024, Tennessee would not be a college football playoff team last year if it wasn't for the defense that Tim Banks put together. Obviously, there was a lot of talent on the field, and guys certainly made some big plays and big moments. I think Tennessee only maybe let go of 16.1 points per game, somewhere around there. I believe it was the third-ranked defense in the SEC, seventh-ranked nationally. But then there was a huge stumbling block in 2025 and a defense that regressed significantly. I think we all understand that there were injuries. We talked about them. If you're on the Rocky Top Insider Instagram page, you certainly did not forget about some of those injuries throughout the season with Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson. But ultimately, I think dropping back to where it did, third to last place in the SEC in terms of scoring defense. I believe it was in the 90s in terms of nationally. It was just a big regression. And ultimately, Josh Heupel and Tennessee's administration decided it was time to make a change. And out goes Tim Banks. Shump, I'll start with you. Just kind of what was your reaction to this when the news came down on Monday?
Yeah, I wasn't shocked by it. I think if you'd asked me after the season whether they were going to make a change there, I would have said yes. Maybe a little bit less confidence as they got a little bit further removed from signing day and something still hadn't happened. But it did kind of feel like, it would have made sense on Monday. They probably weren't going to make a move over the weekend or anything like that. And I certainly don't think Josh Heupel just woke up on Monday morning and changed his mind or thought, all right, let's make a change now. So, a move that I think does make sense, that I think probably was the right move. I think on here we were probably a little bit bigger Tim Banks defenders than most, and I don't think he was as responsible for all of Tennessee's issues this season as people would like. But at the same time, I don't think he did a great job, and I don't think he's an elite defensive coordinator. So Josh Heupel sees an area where he feels like he can improve his staff, and I think it's we'll see what ends up happening, who he can hire. But to me felt like a worthwhile risk to take.
Yeah, I think he probably kind of officially lost the job in the Vanderbilt game. Like if Tennessee wins that Vandy game, and even if the defense isn't lights out, but they do enough to limit, Pavia and those guys, and Tennessee wins that game, I think there's at least a path to Josh Heupel saying, okay, you still went 9-3. There was all these injuries. You were down your two corners. You had injuries up front, this and that, and make these excuses and bring him back. But when you got blown out in the Vanderbilt game and you had no answer, especially in the second half for Vanderbilt's offense, it felt like, all right, this move's probably going to happen. I don't hate the move, as you said. I think me specifically too, a bigger Banks guy than a lot of people were, but it was inexcusably bad this year. And so even if he's a better coordinator, a better coach than maybe his unit played this year, it was inexcusably bad. And if you look at the roster and you look at the holes, that still comes to, obviously that's down to Josh Heupel. That's also down to Tim Banks to figure out what the personnel is going to look like on that side. And it's so tough to build up depth, but man, I think it really hurt Tennessee to lose Jacoby Thomas in the spring portal. And, obviously money and things like that play into it, but you have to figure out what you need to prioritize. And it ended up being a situation where, man, I think they probably wish they prioritized keeping Jacoby Thomas around because he was phenomenal at Miami this year, and Tennessee had very subpar safety play. So all that said, yeah, not surprising. We'll see what they do in that spot. Obviously, a couple of names I think we'll probably talk about as potential candidates, but definitely a move that I think is most notably to me because it's the first time we've seen Heupel actually make a move like that and fire a guy that's on his staff as a position coach or coordinator. So that's pretty notable.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think that's a good point about, when we talked about it, I think on our post-game pod maybe I mentioned it elsewhere, where it felt like the Vanderbilt game was, if there was a positive from the Vanderbilt game, is that it was so bad that it was hard to just, sweep anything under the rug with the Hugh Freeze line of, oh, we were close. We were so close. Which I think I've seen that some too and this is just general from Tennessee fans. They're like, Tennessee was, they were just a couple plays away from being 10-2. It's like, well, yeah, they were a couple plays away from being 6-6 too. This was an 8-4 team. This was not some team that just had really bad luck in close games. And you could say, well, the Arkansas game, you were up by more. That game wasn't as close as it looked. And I would say arguably fair. I'd say the same thing for Oklahoma. Tennessee never got the ball back in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma down by one score. So I would argue that game wasn't quite as close as the final score indicated too, though you obviously had chances. So, yeah, to me, that all makes sense. And I think the Jacoby Thomas thing is a good thing to bring up. Like I've said, even going into this year, when I guess people were higher on Tim Banks, where I was like, yeah, I like Tim Banks, defense coordinator. I think Tim Banks, the safeties coach, is the biggest weak link on the staff. Like, I mean, Jalen McCullough had a good 2023.
Yeah.
Besides that, like, they're really the only guy that I would truly say was good back there in the last 5 years is Will Brooks. And
Yeah. Even then,
you
there
know,
was some, yeah. It's not like he was elite. He was
no,
serviceable.
I would say he was legit good, but certainly not elite. So, and look, I don't want to say they got lucky because I don't think that's fair either. They did a good job coaching him up and all that, but it's not exactly a format you can replicate a lot of. We're going to coach up this walk on into being good. So yeah, Jacoby Thomas, and then the other thing I was just going to hit because that reminded me. I think one of the bigger weaknesses on this defense or shortcomings was depth on the defensive line, and especially a defense tackle. And the one portal body they went out and got this year in Josh Shell was just a huge, bust. And I don't even know if I really say bust because I wasn't all that confident he could help them when they got
That
him.
was more just get a warm body in the room.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they needed to get a bigger warm body.
Yes. No, they needed that because that was something we talked about all offseason. Like, that was not like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening. It was the entire offseason. It's like, you lost everything on the interior of your defensive line. You're really good one deep when you look at Bryson Easton, Jackson Moy. You're hoping David Hobbs can take a step forward, and then maybe you can get something from Nathan Robinson and those guys and the freshmen down the list. But if you're trying to play even close to what you did at the level last year, or even close to the rotation you did last year, you needed to bring in guys that made impacts. And you saw them tied to some game or to some names, like a guy from Wisconsin that would have probably been serviceable that they were tied to. And they just didn't land any of them besides going down to the Division II level and landing Josh Chanel, who I don't think played a snap this year. Maybe he played a couple. And not
He did. He played some snaps.
Some garbage time.
He didn't play snaps against
meaningful teams.
Opponents. So
yeah.
He wasn't a factor, is I guess what I'm getting at. So that's that was another, that's not Tim Banks' position group like it is safety, but it's Tim Banks' defense. And so those decisions are up to him. And not that it's not up to Josh Heupel too, but that's, kind of those two working in tandem, and Tim Banks is going to get the blame, whether that's completely fair or not for defensive issues like that.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. And, I think that ultimately at the end of the day, it seemed like Tim Banks was a nice guy. But I think it'll be good for this program to get some.
I like the guy.
I like the guy. I think it'll be good for this program to get a little bit of new blood in, especially one that has, sort of the impact and the reach that somebody with the title of defensive coordinator does have. So there are some prospects that I think you can look at, and there are certainly some names that have been floated around. Shump, you've put out not one but two hot boards in the 2 days since that news broke, and there's some really intriguing names about it. I think that maybe Ryan Walters, who was the, who I was alluding to at the beginning of the show, in case anybody didn't pick up on that, he's kind of been the name of the week, if you will, the name that's really been floated around, so much so that he answered a question about it over at a Washington Huskies press conference. I believe that was yesterday, so on Tuesday, because the news had to kind of manifest for a little while. But ultimately, I do think it'll be good for this program to get a little new blood in. And Ryan, I think what you said about Josh Heupel didn't wake up on Monday and make this decision. You make this decision, understanding to me what the magnitude of this next hire is going to be. You can get rid of Tim Banks, and that might appease some fans for a little while, and that might give you an opportunity to start over, at least go in a different direction with that spot on the defense. But it doesn't matter unless you hire somebody who can elevate things going forward. And so, we can talk about Tim Banks all we want, but I still think that this next conversation, maybe not necessarily that we're going to have right now, we're going to be talking about candidates, but the next conversation of who you get and how he puts his defense together is such a big one, because, I don't know if it's necessarily make or break for Josh Heupel, but there's a lot of chips stacked into this move on the poker table for Josh Heupel. And so I think getting new blood in here is a good thing for this program. But boy, now it comes down to who are you going to get? What are they going to do? And what's going to be different about this defense moving forward? If you're Josh Heupel, I think that you go into this firing with kind of an understanding of what you want, maybe some names on a short list, but certainly with some expectations that you have for what this next hire is going to look like.
For sure. I mean, it's more important who you hired than making the decision to fire Tim Banks. And look, people, I know some people listening will disagree with me. Tim Banks, to me, was not a bad defense coordinator. So you can do worse than Tim Banks. So you have to go out there and make a good hire. And, I think to the point of Josh Heupel didn't wake up Monday and decide to fire him, I would think that he has some idea of what the interest level is. Because if not, you can end up looking like Penn State in a hurry, where you think you're going to get Marcus Freeman and you think you're going to get Mike Elko, and then that ended up okay. Matt Campbell, I think, is a good coach, but you whiffed on about 15 other people because of your
you got
arrogance.
embarrassed in the process.
And you
got embarrassed in the process, and let go I would say a better coach than the one you ended up hiring, or at least a comparable one. So that all that to say, I would think Josh Heupel would be on top of it, and Ryan Walters has quickly been the name that has popped up. I wouldn't think we would get anything super quickly on him. Just it's a Washington, which is why you're speaking to the media. They play in the I think this is what it was. They're playing it. I never heard of this before. I need to. I find it to confirm in the article, and then I want to get y'all's live reaction as I read it.
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay, well, I'll do it with Rick.
I've no clue what it is, but I know what it is.
The Bucked Up LA Bowl on Saturday night.
The Buck Up. Can we say that?
I don't know either. But
can I get a spelling, please?
B as in boy. UCKED.
The Bucked.
I think there's an ED.
Yeah. He said that.
UCKED.
Okay.
Bucked Up LA
Bowl. So all that to say, they play Boise State night game Saturday night. I wouldn't think, and the way he made his comments yesterday of, I haven't talked to anybody at Tennessee doesn't mean his agent hasn't talked to anybody at Tennessee. But the way he talked about it, the way that it is an early bowl game, to me it feels like if it ends up being Ryan Walters, there won't be any sort of announcement until Sunday or Monday.
You're speaking to that real quick, because I did read, Ryan posted about this. If you want to go and see the video, if you want to go see the full transcript of what he said in that answer, you can head over to RockyTopInsider.com. It should be just in the football tab. He said in his statement, though, and again, I'm not very up to date on Washington's bowl spot, obviously, but he was like, I'm not worried about the Tennessee job. I'm worried about focusing on Boise State on Saturday. Like, Boise State on Saturday? Like, what is happening on Saturday? Like, it's only December 10th. I just, boy, I guess I've been so wrapped up in all this Tennessee stuff. I didn't know that A, Washington and Boise State were playing in a bowl game, and B, it was happening on like the 13th of the month. It was happening as early as it was. So that did kind of catch me off guard. I'm glad that I got that solved here this morning.
I mean, I would love if Tennessee's bowl game was in 3 days. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
I mean, it was in like 6 days from now last year in the playoffs, right? That first round game, if I remember correctly, I think was on the 16th of December, because I remember having a ton of time before the Christmas break.
I do. He did do one of my favorite things coaches do, and asked about jobs, because he was asked generally about the connection, and then it was followed up of like, do you expect to be here next season? And he just hit it with that, I hope so, which I love when coaches do that, where coaches who are so clearly not going to get fired. Like, it's truly up to them whether they want to take another job or stay, or like, yeah, I hope we'll be back. I like it here.
If the stars align.
If you want to be back, you will be back. And I guess to give a little bit of background on Ryan Walters' pedigree, at least, Washington, in points per game, this was his first year at Washington. In points per game in 2024, they ranked 55th nationally, and then with him coming in, they ranked 22nd nationally. He had 2 years as the head coach of Purdue that went very poorly prior to that, and then prior to his time at Purdue, he had 2 seasons as defense coordinator at Illinois. 2022, Illinois, they had the number 1 defense in the country, points per game, and then in 2021, they ranked, let's see, I lost it here. It was 29th nationally in points per game. So an impressive pedigree of producing, productive defenses in his time as coordinators at multiple stops.
Yeah, a couple of ties to Tennessee, right?
Yes, you want
maybe not Tennessee, but the coaching staff side.
The coaching staff, yeah. Well, Josh Heupel, 2 years they worked together at Missouri. Walters was the co-DC when Heupel was the offense coordinator. As you might remember, Glenn Ellerby was with Heupel there. Joey Halzle was with Heupel at Missouri, and then somewhat similarly going back to Oklahoma in 2012. Ryan Walters was a GA there. Heupel was the offense coordinator. Joey Halzle was also a GA. So Halzle and Walters were GAs together at OU in 2012. And then the one tie I could find to the defensive staff, Walters played his college football at Colorado from 2004 to 2007, I believe. And William Inge was the defensive line coach there in 2005. So 1 year of overlap. Walters was a safety, so not, he didn't play. Inge was not his position coach, but there should at least be some level of familiarity between the two.
I was going to say, to put some context on his horrific Purdue tenure too. I mean, the last season was, I believe they finished 1-11, so it wasn't good. But he left Illinois under Brett Bielema to go over to be the head coach at Purdue. And I found a video of Brett asked about, hey, what happened? Like, you obviously know this guy well. He was your DC. What happened that it went so badly at Purdue? And he was very adamant. Not that he's going to dog on the guy, but he was like, man, I think he did poorly, not because he's not a good football coach, but because of the almost managerial aspects of it, of hiring a staff, of doing those little things that go such a long way. And that was more so where he put the blame, which I think gives you some hope of him as a coordinator where, Brett's still like, hey, he knows a lot of football. He calls plays very well. It's not the football aspect of it that I think went poorly at Purdue. I think it's kind of the head coaching overall duties that can be tough to juggle that maybe went poorly. So if you're hung up on that aspect, I don't think that's something to get too worried about as a looking at him as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how common is that in just the
Yeah.
sport of football as a whole, both college and in the NFL? You have guys who, just aren't built to be head coaches, and no knock on that. But I think there is a lot that, especially in the college world, there's so much managerial side of things, whether it's the new world of NIL, that everybody's living in, whether it's putting together a staff, whether it's, some of the media sides of things to it. And then some guys are just going out there and they're good at calling ball, and so I don't think that's a knock on you if that's who you are. And some guys are better in that role. I think there's some guys that, are more exciting even potentially in that role, because if you can say, hey, if you can just kind of focus in on what you're good at, then, we're content with that. If there's anything else on Ryan Walters that anybody wants to get to, be my guest. But otherwise, Ryan, you put out the Hot Board 2.0, and I won't ask you to read through the whole thing, but is there anybody that kind of got your interest in that, or maybe even a little bit of a hot and cold meter on some of the guys that you put? Again, if you want to go find Ryan's full list, you can go and check it out over at RockyTopInsider.com. But is there anybody else on the list that you feel like maybe has a bit of a hot or cold meter to it, just kind of in the steps that you were taking to put this thing together?
Yeah. Okay, I'll circle back to a name that I removed from Hot Board 2.0 and had on Hot Board 1
Gerard
that I
Mayo.
like a lot. Not Gerard Mayo, but that is one of his names. Look, Jim Knowles is, I think, probably the dream candidate in a lot of ways. Extremely accomplished, high pedigree, out of a job right now because he was at Penn State, and Matt Campbell's bringing John Heacock with him from Iowa State. We'll see. It doesn't seem like Knowles has been dying to get back into coaching. They got to pay him. I don't know exactly what his buyout was, but he was getting paid $3.1 million last year on the first year of a 3-year deal. So I'm sure he's getting paid a pretty penny not to coach, and Tennessee would probably have to pay him a very pretty penny to entice him to coach. Colin Hitchler is at James Madison. I think they're second nationally right now in scoring defense. It is his first year as a full-time defense coordinator, but he does have a little bit of experience in the SEC at Alabama as a safeties coach.
But got fired.
There. What's that?
That's the wrinkle with him, is he just was fired by Kalen DeBoer. I think he was the co-DC.
Co-DC and safeties coach, I think.
And he got fired. He was the scapegoat for their season last year. So that is an interesting aspect with him.
Yeah. And then also
safeties connection.
Yes.
Yeah, but and then also James Madison aspect are in the playoffs. You could announce that hire beforehand, but this is a tricky thing. And then to me, like after that, it's kind of the three SEC names that pop out. Corey Batoon has been at Missouri the last 2 years as defense coordinator. From a financial standpoint, that one feels a little bit easier. He makes right around $1 million a year at Missouri. That feels like you could poach him. Also a safeties coach. Clayton White's been at South Carolina the entire time with Shane Beamer. He makes, I think he made $1.9 million this past year, but I think his contract bumps up to $2.1 million next year. So, again, that would seem like from a financial standpoint, a tough one to do. But a dude that I think pretty much year in year out, South Carolina's defense has been pretty good under Beamer. It's been offense that's been wildly sporadic. And then the last SEC name is Travaris Robinson at Georgia. I think that's a guy you could get. He does have the co-DC tag, but he's not the guy calling the plays. He's kind of like how Tim Banks was to co-DC at Penn State, where he has the tag, but he's not really the guy running the defense. So I would think he would jump into the chance to be able to be the guy leading the defense. He is really accomplished as a secondary coach and is viewed as a really good recruiter. So those are kind of three other names that seem semi-realistic and have stood out, or four other names that seem semi-realistic and have stood out, but it feels like it's been pretty close to the vest for Josh Heupel right now, and not a whole lot has gotten out about the search.
Sylvia, we'll get your take in a second, but I do just want to mention, because Shump threw out some interesting financial numbers. I guess it is worth mentioning that Tennessee signed Tim Banks to a new contract in January 2025, obviously coming off of that impressive 2024 season. He was making $2.15 million a year on a 3-year deal. Obviously, only went one out of those 3 years. Excuse me. So the buyout would be about 4.3, somewhere in that range. And then on 3 Sports is Chris Lowe. He reported after the firing happened that Tennessee wants to make this happen quickly, which, as we've been talking about, there could be some limitations to that. So we'll see what happens there. But B, that Tennessee is willing to step up and pay for another defensive coordinator, because they had made Tim Banks one of the highest paid in the sport, previously at the beginning of the 2025 season. So maybe that's not a blanket statement to say that, Tennessee would just go out and pay all this money for, a Jim Knowles, like Ryan was alluding to a second ago. But I do think that's an interesting tidbit when you're talking about some of the financials for some of these guys.
Yeah, the other name I was just going to throw in that's worth mentioning would be Willie Minge. I don't think that'll be what Heupel does. I think optically it would be a tough sell, because people are kind of, upset about the Friends Club that it seems like he has going on a little bit. That's people have been frustrated with Tim Banks and other position coaches for a long time, and it seems like Heupel's hesitant to fire a lot of these guys because he has so many connections with them. Now Willie Minge, it's not like him and Heupel go way back, but he's on the staff right now, so I'm curious if that plays any factor into it. Maybe best to get an outside guy right now. But Willie Minge is qualified. He's the interim DC right now. It seems like he'll be the DC calling the plays in the Music City Bowl. But he was the associate head coach and co-DC at Washington. He was the DC at Fresno State. He was co-DC at Indiana, DC at Buffalo. Like, he's done it at multiple stops at multiple levels. So he's qualified. I'm sure he'll get, at the very least, a courtesy interview if he's interested in it, too, is also an aspect of it. That's just a name that I feel like is worth throwing out, but I still think that it's most likely going to be an outside hire. I would be a little bit surprised if it was just an elevation of Willie Minge, but definitely on the table.
Yeah, like you said, I think that's tough optically.
Yeah, it'd just be a tough sell to, which, if Heupel's sitting there and he's like, I truly, in my heart, think this is the best move. I think that this is the best option we have, is to hire Willie Minge. Then screw the optics and you do it. But I just don't think that that's also necessarily the case. So
you'd have to miss out on some other guys.
Yeah, it feels almost like a backup plan. Like, all right, he's already on staff. You can figure it out and then shuffle some pieces and figure out, what you want to do with that extra position coach opening you would have then. But it feels like the easiest thing right now would be to find, first of all, a guy that's a good defensive coordinator somewhere else, like a Ryan Walters, and then an added addition if they also have the experience coaching safeties, because that's a position you got to figure out too.
The only disappointing thing on my side, if it wasn't William Minge, was that my dream of having an entire defense full of Navy SEALs would be kaput. That would be cool. Just imagine for a second, an entire defense, 11 personnel of Navy SEALs. There's a lot of people, I guess, who won't get that, but that would be a dream. I'm with you guys, though. I don't think that William Minge is that realistic of a candidate, despite the pedigree that he's had in the past, and despite his current position at Tennessee. I think that you look to a lot of these other names first, and like we talked about a minute ago, you try to bring some new blood in here to get some sort of different ideals, some sort of different just way of thinking, way of go about things. in as well. And Jason Swain was a guest on the RTI Lowdown, I think, right after the Vanderbilt game, and he didn't really give a lot of specifics, and not that you would imagine him to, but he did kind of say that he felt like there were some areas where, and I hope I'm not misquoting any of those things, so I'm not trying to quote, but there were a couple of areas where Tennessee maybe was soft, and just didn't have things going, and he in no way tagged Tim Banks or even specifically the defensive side of the ball for that. But again, I think that does lead you to just getting a little bit of new blood. Maybe somebody who can come in and shake things up, get attention in a different way. Again, I don't know if the defense was the main culprit of some of those things, but I do think that bringing in a new person, a new mantra, a new mindset is kind of good for just kind of resetting things overall, especially after going to a bowl game that you were at in the inaugural year, which can be a tough sell at times.
And really the last thing I have on this, my dream scenario, and there has been zero buzz around this, so I don't expect it to happen. That's why I removed his name from Hotboard 2.0, but is to poach Dave Aranda from Baylor. Like you've seen coaches make this move, especially when their seat's starting to get a little hot at like ACC, Big 12 jobs, of saying, all right, I'm just going to jump the shark and go back to being a coordinator at a power level. They're giving Aranda one more year at Baylor. It felt like his seat was really, really hot this year. They missed a bowl game. So we'll see. It sounds like he's going to come back, but that's a guy that really, really accomplished as a defense coordinator at LSU. And then at Wisconsin before that I think would have been or would be an absolute home run, but probably a little unrealistic to expect.
Pricey one as well, you'd think.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure you'd have to pay him a lot in that $3 million range to lure him and to buy out. Yeah. So I do wonder if some on the buyout they would agree to a negotiated buyout.
Oh, okay. You want to leave on your own accord? All right, that's fine.
Yeah. LSU, by the way, retained their defensive coordinator, Baker something. Blake Baker.
Was at Missouri beforehand. He was the DC at Missouri before Corey Batoon. I think 23 was his last year.
There you go. My first instinct was to say Dusty Baker. It was not Dusty Baker as the LSU defensive coordinator. And then another assistant move that I think happened this week was Shane Beamer.
Kendall Briles.
Big move by bringing in Kendall Briles, stealing him from Texas Christian. I thought that was a really fascinating move. South Carolina is not on Tennessee's 26-28 chart. Is that correct, Sylvia? I think that South Carolina are they? I can't remember.
I think Tennessee plays in Columbia.
They're either on 26-28 or they're 27-29.
Yeah, they play at Columbia next year, and then
so huge hire for Tennessee's purposes.
That might be something that we'll get a post up on Rocky Top Insider with a little bit more information. But Shane Beamer makes a splash hire. I think that's fair to say. Kendall Briles certainly a name in the offensive coordinator world.
I'll tell you this though. VFL Shane Beamer, we'll find out, I guess, on Sunday when that game on the schedule is. He might not be around by the time Tennessee plays him. His seat is hot.
Did you not listen to him? They're going to be in the playoff hunt next year.
He's really upset they're not. VFL Shane Beamer is really upset that he's not competing for an SEC championship right now.
The Tennessee playing Brett Bielema in the Music City Bowl. I texted you guys about this, but it reminded me of a great moment just a couple of months ago when VFL Shane Beamer lost his absolute mind at Brett Bielema during the 2024 Citrus Bowl. Just looked like he was ready to square. Looked like Kamal Haddon almost when he was just ready to square up and fight Brett Bielema. And let me tell you, Brett Bielema would have swung one of his tree trunk arms and just obliterated Shane Beamer. Like it would have been a squash fight, I think. But Shane Beamer very upset at to his credit, he's a sneaky little guy. He bent the rules to his favor in a kickoff return against Illinois, and Brett Bielema came over to the sideline while checking on an injured player and, kind of taunted him a little bit, did the T signal right back at him. And Shane Beamer just, absolutely flew off the sidelines. Like, it was incredible. And really let Brett Bielema know what VFL Shane Beamer thought about his taunting. So that was just another good memory that came up this week after Illinois and Brett Bielema got announced as Tennessee's bowl opponent for VFL Shane Beamer.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get a Josh Heupel type of Shane Beamer level crash out at the Music City Bowl. Heupel seems like a guy who would he'd be upset, but he would not direct it at the other sideline. He would just direct it at the officiating.
He's the Bielema's. I mean, not that this is breaking any news, but he is a big guy. He is.
Yeah.
I was down there.
Two big guys.
Not quite close to belly to belly with him on Saturday before the game. Whew. He's that's big.
Yeah.
Another.
He draws a presence, I think you could say. When he steps into an arena in a closed space, you know that a different force has entered the building.
One of the greatest things to come out of the Music City Bowl so far is the video of him in front of Nissan Stadium on the basketball game day, where he knows he's going to Music City Bowl. I think he was pretty sure they were going to play Tennessee, but it wasn't confirmed. He still had to see how things shook out. And he's sitting in front of the stadium like, can't wait to play in this bowl game. Great opponent, well coached. And it's just like, you're just saying generic things about whatever SEC team you're going to play. It's a great clip of him just dancing around, trying to insinuate that this is like recorded after the announcement, but also everyone knows it's before. It's very funny.
Speaking of the Music City Bowl, unless anybody's got any final thoughts on Tim Banks, but I think we pretty much hit all of that. As we mentioned earlier, Tennessee will play in the Music City Bowl on December 30th. They will stay in state. They'll go to Nashville, Nissan Stadium, the Proud stadium that it is over in Nashville. 5:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. Tennessee takes on Illinois, the Fighting Illini. Both teams are 8-4 heading into the year. If you want to take a quick look at Illinois' schedule for this year, started out with 3 wins against Western Illinois, eventual ACC champion Duke, and Western Michigan. Got obliterated by Indiana in a road game in Bloomington, 63-10. Then bounced back, actually, beat USC, Southern Cal. Then also followed that up with a win over Purdue. Lost to Ohio State, lost to Washington, bounced back with wins over Rutgers and Maryland. Lost I think, a disappointing game to Wisconsin, maybe one that they should have gotten, and then finished off the season with a win over Northwestern in rivalry weekend to close down the season at 8-4. As we mentioned at the top of the show, I think from a fan perspective, this was not necessarily the sexiest of bowl games, I think, if you will. I think there is a fair kind of, it's out there in the universe that this is where you started the Josh Heupel tenure, and I think that there is a disappointing factor to that for some fans to be returning there. Again, I don't know.
Who cares? You're in the playoff or you're not.
I agree.
Just keep it close, get over with, and let's move on.
Be upset that they went 8-4 and didn't beat anybody with a pulse. Who cares that they're in the Music City Bowl?
I agree. I think for a lot of people who are slamming on the Music City Bowl, and I get that it's not a fun bowl, but like if Tennessee again was in the Gator Bowl, which is the other one I think they were likely to, like how much does that change your opinion of being like, oh, well, now it's bowl season, baby. Like now we're ready for this one. Oh, give me, it's not Michigan. It's who is it that's going to be in that bowl? It's not
Virginia.
Iowa. Virginia is in the
show a little respect.
The Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, that might. Oh,
Mizzou, Virginia.
That might have actually gotten the people fired up. I'm wrong. That one would have got money. That would have been a making money today kind of game. But anyways, like I don't know how people would have been like, yeah, it's bowl season, baby, Gator Bowl, we're back. Like at the end of the day, Ryan's right. Like it's either playoffs or you're disappointed that you got to go somewhere in December for a meaningless game. That's kind of the fact of the matter. That news came out on Sunday. What do you guys think about this Music City Bowl matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't matter what bowl game you're in. And I think the only reason there's a little bit of pushback about the Music City Bowl from fans is you think back to the UNC game, you think back to the Purdue game. It's just not good vibes in that bowl game for Tennessee.
Which, by the way, that was a touchdown from Jalen Wright.
They should have won.
One of those things that boggles my mind.
The first one was just bad officiating, the second one was bad officiating. The UNC one was correct officiating, just a horrible rule set that had to be changed immediately. So, at least you're in college football history, I guess. You can share that every time there's a 10-second runoff and all that. But it doesn't matter. If Tennessee loses, oh well. If they win, cool, good for them. I think it's more so you look at the individual pieces of it. So I did put together a quick list of, I've been asked a couple times already, hey, who's opting out of this bowl game? So far, no one's officially opted out. Let's go through the quick list, and you can tell me your early thought on, one, if you think they're going to opt out, and two, kind of want them to opt out, see what's going on behind them, see some of the freshmen or younger guys play. Just run down the list. First, quarterback Joey. Do you think he plays in this bowl game, and do you want him to play in this bowl game?
I think he wants to play.
Bingo.
I think he wants
That's
to
what
play.
I was going to say. I think
But
he
if you're
really
Josh
wants
Heupel,
to
do you
play.
say, man, I would really like to see what George McIntyre has?
I think that's all about what you're doing at quarterback. If your plan is to go to the portal and get somebody, I think more power to it. I think it's fine to give Joey one more game. But I almost wonder the other way too. Like, I don't necessarily feel this way, but I do think our buddy Chase Thomas if he didn't make this take, at least if he didn't say it explicitly, I think this is what he was getting at. It's like, if you're really going to have a McIntyre Faison Brandon battle, do you give McIntyre the leg up from an optics standpoint? He comes in and looks pretty good in a meaningless bowl game. Nico 23. I mean, Nico didn't play that well in the
He ran it well.
23. Yeah, and he ran for like 45 yards. And he did.
And like
And
3 touchdowns.
And he was going to be the starter, and people like to get excited, and I'm not trying to rip people, but it was so over-the-top positive. Whereas if George McIntyre goes out and plays pretty well, I wonder if that skews things for Faison Brandon. I don't know. If you're not going to bring in a portal quarterback, I would rather play George McIntyre to give him the experience, but I do kind of see that side of the argument.
Sure. You have any thoughts, Rick?
Not necessarily. I have no idea. Like, there is part of me that says, like, if Tennessee really wants to win this bowl game and they want to finish the season off with a win, then you just play Joey Aguilar the whole time. I obviously every team that competes wants to win, but again, how much is that kind of balanced with also, well, this is a really important position for the future. And even if it means that we got to go and play an inexperienced guy to get him a couple of those reps, maybe things go south. Maybe they don't. Like, there's no way to know. But I think if Tennessee just dying to end the season with a win, get to 9-4 on the year, then Joey gives you the best chance to do that. But there's a balance to it. So I really don't know. That's one of my biggest kind of questions going into this game.
All right, let's get some out of the way that I think we'll all agree probably are not playing. Chris Brazzell, I cannot imagine is going to play in this game.
Yeah, would be a surprise to me. Josh
Josephs, I don't think is going to play in this game.
I think Josh Josephs could play because he seems like a guy that cares.
On some still.
Yeah, I mean, if I was him, I probably wouldn't play, but it wouldn't surprise me if he played. But if I was picking,
yes,
I would say he'll opt out.
Yeah,
Colton,
it feels like a business decision, even for a guy who seemingly loves to go out there and compete, and probably makes it in a very difficult manner.
Colton Hood, I don't think is going to play.
I agree.
Obviously. What? Go ahead.
Corner situation across from Ty Redmond.
I have that
right
down because that was next.
Luke Altmaier, McCoy,
we all cannot imagine is going to play. Ricky Gibson, we all cannot.
Jermod McCoy might come back. He could be the week.
William Wright, get ready to give your all one more time.
So yeah, that is. I did have that written down for really quickly after this. We can go to it right now, though. I mean, you have Ty Redmond on one side. Do you go William Wright? He's technically the next guy, or do you try to give it to one of the freshmen? Hey, Trey Poteet, what you got? Let's just figure out what you have there.
Probably both.
Yeah, I'd rotate. Play both
I think that you give William Wright the nod because he's been there. He's been a good teammate, seemingly. He's a senior. Last game, I think you give him the nod, but you start working both in, and maybe at some point at the end of the game, depending on where the score is, high one way, low the other way. You probably keep that rotation going and see what you have. But it would be shocking if William Wright, the senior, a longevity guy, a locker room guy, if he didn't get the start.
Here's the last kind of opt-out potential that I'm curious about. And I think this guy will play, if I had to guess, Lance Hurd.
Yeah.
It's still not someone that's popped up too much on mock drafts and things like that.
I think if Lance Hurd declares for the NFL draft, he probably plays. This is just a bigger offseason topic. I don't really see. I would be surprised if Lance Hurd's back at Tennessee. I think if Lance Hurd
declare,
if he doesn't declare and he comes back to school, I think he transfers.
Okay, really?
Just because I think. Well, my thing is like he could demand a lot of money So he could get
That's
paid a ton of money in the portal
former
this year from
5-star
somebody.
senior left tackle.
Gave up 1 sack and was
Yeah,
good
had a
in
good-
pass protection this year. And if you're Tennessee, is it worth paying him that money when you can just slide Jesse Perry out? I don't
Yeah.
really think so.
And put
I think
Dave
you're
back
much better off rolling with David Sanders and
Move
Jesse
David
Perry.
to
David
left.
Sanders, who you're already paying a ton of money.
and he looked good as a true freshman.
And was good, yeah. Like, completely lived up to expectations to me for, looks like a guy that can be an all SEC, all American type guy down the road. So, and I don't know, he could come back and, just love it at Tennessee and want to play more. But to me, he's a guy that even if he does play college football next year, my bet would be it would be somewhere other than Tennessee. And at the very least, I feel confident he could make more money playing college football somewhere other than Tennessee than he would at Tennessee.
I'd agree with that. My gut tells me that he is a guy that's going to declare and probably be a late round draft pick. Maybe not like last pick of the draft, but like fifth, sixth,
day 3 draft pick.
Day 3 draft pick. But hey, if you have it all comes down to if you can have a couple teams be like, yeah, if you're on the board in the 6th or 7th round, we're very interested, and you can get that from multiple teams. Then I think he's probably a guy that has his eyes set on a potential NFL career. So that would make a lot of sense to me. And if he does declare, I think he sits out. So we'll see. That's an interesting one. I don't know. He's the biggest coin flip to me, though, because if he does come back to college and he does want to stay at Tennessee, then obviously you're playing. I don't know. He's the one that, to me, I guess him and Joey are the two that are just like, I could see either side of it. That's it. That's the whole list. I mean, Miles Kitselman, I don't think any of us anticipate to play because of the injury he suffered at the end of the year. Maybe he'll be able to get back for it. Didn't seem like there's too much optimism that would be a short-term deal instead of more of a long-term deal. Besides that, I mean, it all comes down to who enters the portal and who doesn't, which right now it's just 3 guys in the portal, obviously Boo Carter and Kellen Lindstrom and Jamal Wallace. So not anything too crazy, but as I guess these exit interviews continue to get underway, I would expect, I've been saying that for about a week now, I expect the portal to start to have some movement for Tennessee coming up, but the floodgates are yet to open. So we'll see.
Maybe some guys are waiting to play in the bowl game and then announcing after that, because you don't really have, you can play in the bowl this year. I mean,
it's not like you can enter the portal right now and start shopping yourself to the full extent. So it's like there's not much of a reason to really. Yeah. But you're still seeing, I mean, across the country, you're still seeing a bunch of names enter. So we'll see.
Yeah. No doubt about it. All right. Not too much to say on early signing period last week. Again, just that Tennessee finished in the top 10 of most respective, sites, whether you're looking at Compositor or each publication's own rankings. And that's from 247 arrivals to On3. Couple of flips that came Tennessee's way. Carter Gooden, a defensive lineman. Jordan Carter, I think the name was, another defensive lineman. Both either flipped to Tennessee or kind of committed to Tennessee, signed with Tennessee on early signing day, which was last Wednesday. You had Legend Bay reflip back to Tennessee, although as we talked about at the beginning of the show, that one just seems totally up in the air as to what's going to happen. Just a bit of a weird situation that has kind of just gone quiet on the radar. So still some interesting stuff about that. But then Tennessee did have a flip go away from them as well, and that was Celesi Moa staying in his home state of Utah, signing with the Utes program as well. So ultimately, I think a net positive for Tennessee, even though Celesi Moa was such a talented recruit and very highly ranked in a lot of these recruiting services. I believe it was Carter. Like I was looking at ESPN's top 300. They traded a top 50 recruit and a top 50. I think it was Carter Gooden, who was somewhere around that. So you essentially trade kind of in that top 300 listing. But I think ultimately a net positive. We'll see what happens with Legend Bay. But, a lot of it, and it's not entirely sexy. It's not, the big breaking news of the day. But a lot of it just comes down to retention, especially when you have so many kind of people and entities coming at you from different directions. I thought that Tennessee's ability to retain so much of the class, the vast majority, all but one really, of the class that had put together going into the early signing period, for Tennessee to be able to retain that was really impressive, whether it be a guy like Tristan Keys, who there were some reports that, some SEC schools maybe made a last-minute run at him.
Joel Wyatt,
People
absolutely.
are going at Gabe Osenda too.
Yeah. So again, I think that retention, whether you're talking about a recruiting class or the portal, is so uber important So kudos for Tennessee for being able to retain a significant amount. Celestino, at the end of the day, a guy from far away ending up staying in his home state, like you can see why, right, on that one, and a little bit of money I think comes after as well. So
you might have said
that's
this
kind of how
too.
early signing day came and gone.
You might have said this name and I just missed it, but JJ Finch flipped from Alabama
Thank
to
you. I
Tennessee
knew there was
too.
one more.
And is he, Sylvia, does JJ Finch, did he go to the same high school that Marion Dye went to?
Ooh.
I
He
think
went to the
did.
same high school as someone.
He went
Was
to
it
Warren Central. That rings a bell, and I don't know why it would ring a bell
In
other than Marion
Indianapolis?
Dye. Yeah,
I feel like I remember writing that he went to the same high school as someone. No. Marion Dye went to Elkhart.
Okay.
What? Warren Central is I feel like I wrote that in the story. I wrote it in one of the stories, one of the flips, that he went to the same high school as someone on the roster. It might have been Carter or Jordan Carter. Now that I think about it.
Okay.
So no,
Yeah.
but from the same area.
Yeah, for sure. So
hey, another connection that I found earlier in the week is that Tennessee is recruiting Kenneth Simon II from Brentwood Academy in Nashville. A safety linebacker hybrid is being recruited by William Inge, so maybe trending more towards the linebacker side of things. We'll see a talented prospect in the 2027 recruiting cycle. If the name Simon rings a bell, it's because it should. He is the son of Kevin Simon, who was a standout Tennessee linebacker from 2001 to 2005. He was a two-time All-SEC selection. He was an NFL draft pick by the Washington Redskins back in 2006. So 2027 prospect. Tennessee already has, I think, 4 2027 commitments. The guy who started the class was J.P. Peace, who I believe plays for Bearden. Is that correct? In Knoxville?
West.
No. West. He plays for West, a 3-star linebacker. He is the son of Robert Peace. Robert Peace and Kevin Simon played in the same Tennessee linebacker room from 2001 to 2003. So if Tennessee can get Kenneth Simon, they will have 2 sons, I guess, playing in the same potentially linebacker room as their fathers played some 13 to 14 years, or I guess maybe about 15 or so years earlier, which is an interesting tidbit to me.
Here's something for you, Rick. Jason Witten's son, Cooper Witten.
God.
He wasn't in the linebacker room, but he was on that team, and his son plays linebacker and is in that class and is being heavily recruited by Tennessee. So you have the chance to triple that of just running back those early teams.
That was the Butch. Was there a Butch Jones catchphrase for the legacy guys that he tried to get for a while? I remember that being a big deal.
He coined VFL, I believe. So
no, that was Derek Dooley.
Well, that was a Dooley one. But was Butch this? Butch was the hand signal then?
I think Butch was the hand signal. At least he popularized the hand signal.
Yeah,
sure.
I believe Kevin Simon's still on staff at Tennessee. I could be wrong about that. I believe he's like the director of player personnel and he's like the liaison to NFL scouts because he was an NFL scout beforehand.
So
I could be wrong about that. He was recently, at least, on Tennessee's staff, and I believe Kenneth Simon was at Knoxville Catholic before this year. Again, could be wrong about that, but pretty sure that's the case. And this is his first year at Brentwood Academy.
I know that you're right about Kevin Simon, that at some point in the very recent past, he was on Tennessee's staff. Like you had mentioned, I don't exactly know if he's still there, but it was very, very recent.
A quick Google shows up. It looked like he started in 2018 under Pruitt in that role. If you look at their staff now, I mean, maybe he's just not listed under the staff, but he's not listed under Heupel's staff. And I think he probably would be in that list of guys if he was. Yeah. But he might be. I'm not 100%.
I do know he was on staff at some point under Heupel. I know he survived
at the beginning,
the bridge from Pruitt to Heupel. But you're right. If he's not listed now, I would assume he's not still on staff.
Rivals Chad Simmons, by the way, says that Tennessee and Alabama are the 2 strong contenders. He listed a top 8. I'm trying to find it, of Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. But again, according to Rivals Chad Simmons, it sounds like that Tennessee and Alabama are the 2 strongest contenders for the Tennessee legacy. So we'll see what happens there. I know we're at an hour and 5 minutes already, and we'll get out of here in a second, but just kind of seeing Notre Dame there in that top 8. Any thoughts on the Irish bowing out of bowl season?
I mean, I don't care as much about them bowing out of this bowl season. They've been very annoying. The one thing that they've done that has really annoyed me is their AD crying about the ACC, like ripping them to try to get Miami in. It's like, dude, what are you? Shut up. Oh, you refuse to commit to them. They would love to have you in the conference. You refuse to commit to them, so you want them to. We won't say anything bad about Notre Dame because they're our partner who refuses to do anything with us. No, their job is to bolster Miami. Shut up, you.
Are you going to share? You gonna share around some of those college football playoff funds with the ACC if you make it?
Yeah. You gonna share?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they don't join a conference just because of the money wise and NBC and all that stuff, but it's like, for the future of your program, as far as making the playoffs, you should want to join a conference. It makes it so much easier to join a conference.
Well, not unless they have this memorandum of understanding that says that as long as they're ranked in the top 12 next year, then they're in. I mean, that's wild.
Notre Dame, have you seen your schedule, Notre Dame? I think you should want to have the four ACC games that you have to play every year. I think you should be signing up for those games. I don't think you're in this position of power that you think you are.
Him saying, well, I need to find the quote really fast. It was, he said, "We are shocked, mystified by what happened Sunday. We had one of the most dominant 10-game runs in the history of college football. And the 10-game run was against 2-10, group of 5, 7-5, 9-3 USC. Okay. 2-10, group of 5, 8-4, 3-9, 4-18. You put like 2 teams with a winning record at the powerful level. And then the other thing is you lost to 2 of the. Oh man, Notre Dame that's my favorite round. Notre Dame would have killed these 2 teams, Miami and Texas A&M.
There's no way they would have lost A&M at home.
Let's win the game.
It's a different team. I mean, that was. It's not like that was this season or anything. That was so long ago.
We're not going to schedule Ohio State anymore. This is ridiculous. If you would have beat them, you would have been like a top 8 seed. Just beat them. You can win the games.
Yep.
Ohio State won the game, and now they're the number 2 team or number 3 team, whatever they are. Just win.
I think this has been a masterclass by Notre Dame in the last 4 or 5 days to make an already fairly hated program just hated that much more. Whether it be from the ACC comments, from the bowl game opt-out, which to my original question, I think that the bowl game opt-out is very cowardly. Not that I am a college football player or I'm in a college football program. Like, I don't know exactly what that feels like. Obviously, that can't feel good, but it just feels like a very cowardly move. And then this AD stuff with the playoff guaranteed spot that still feels a bit fuzzy in some ways. I think this has just been a masterclass in how to, get a sport that, pretty much universally does not like you already, to have even more reasons to not like you. Not that they need to be liked, but
all of a sudden there's random smoke. All of a sudden, hey, Marcus Freeman might be an NFL guy. That might be a guy who wants to go to the NFL.
Come on home.
So
Marcus,
that would be
brother Marcus. I love you, and what you're saying about the playoff committee makes all the right sense.
I'll say this too, real quick before we.
Not a cowardly move. We loved it.
As annoying as Vanderbilt football's been in the last year or two, the Clark, as funny as it was too, after he went on his tirade about making this should be a playoff team is ridiculous.
We'll go to Puerto Rico to play.
Should have won another game. Like they didn't make the playoffs, and he was like, "Yeah, well, we lost 2 games. We should have won another game." That's the way to be likable.
Respectable, commendable.
It's very respectable.
Beforehand,
last year complained, you lost 3 games.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
If you want to complain and make your case before the fact to do everything you can best do to position your team, that's fine. Yeah, I respect that. But this is ever the time Nick Saban went on Fox halftime at the Big Ten championship, like he wasn't Nick Saban and groveled and please put us in the playoffs, please, was one of the more pathetic things I've ever seen from the go to the sport, to go to any sport.
You didn't make we're not talking about if you had a opportunity to complain. It was Florida State in 23. You went undefeated and your quarterback got hurt and you got left out. That was ridiculous in my opinion. If you want to complain about that and be like, this is ridiculous, sure. It's a 12-team playoff now. You lost 2+ games. Win more games.
I'd say the same thing. And I don't think it was crazy that they got left out, but Georgia had won back-to-back national titles, went 12-0, lost one game in the SEC championship close. Easily, like, that's, again, I think they should have gotten left out just with the way things look, but very easily could complain about how they got a raw deal. Never complained. No one opted out of the bowl game. Literally, not a single player opted out of the bowl game, and they beat Florida State 66-3.
Which is also why
that's making a statement.
I like the expanded playoffs. I like the 12-team playoff. I don't want to go more than 16, but I'd be okay with 16 as well. The people, man, this would be a good national championship game if we just brought the BCS back. No, I mean, we're upset because people are complaining about not making the playoffs because they're number 15 in the country. That's ridiculous. Just get better. I think you can be upset because you're the number 3 team in the country and you're not in the playoffs. Sure. That's a little more understandable to me. So I don't mind the expanded playoffs. I think 4 was still too short. I think 12's honestly probably perfect. But 16, I would honestly be okay to go up to 16.
It's like the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass and the Spotify podcasting rankings. We didn't make it this year.
Yeah, we got to be better.
You don't see us packing up our bag
and going
home. You don't see us complaining about Apple Podcasts, okay, or Spotify as a whole. What we did was we put our hard hats back on. Mm-hmm. We went back to work. We got our hammers. We got some nails. We're going to construct some things. We're still going, okay? That's why we unanimously are different from a team like Notre Dame. We just went back to work.
We're the Vanderbilt of podcasting.
We're the Yeah.
Who's the Diego? Rick's the Diego Pavia.
Rick's 100% Diego Pavia.
I don't know if that's true.
And Shumper's Eli Stowers. And I'm Jordan Matthews.
Tell us more about Ball Report, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Rick is, or not Rick. Jack's
on the
Jerry
winning
Kill.
side of things.
Jack's Jerry Kill. You don't really see him, but he's just in the wings offering advice.
Yeah, exactly.
That means our boss would be Clark Lee, and I kind of like how that works out.
Exactly. I'm all on board with this.
And Bob is still Craig McDermott, but they just brought him in to coach football at Vanderbilt.
And Daniel Lewis is Johnny Manziel.
Is he Johnny Manziel or is he Theo Vaughn?
That's a good point.
Yeah, he might be Theo Vaughn. He's loosely associated with the program. He's still around and he's still there. He's a spokesperson for it.
Yeah.
But it might not be the same day-to-day grind as it maybe once.
He's trying to push the guys into the top 10.
He's not putting out as many tweets as Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
He's not questioning play calling from the Vanderbilt sideline on Twitter.
That is hilarious. All right, on that note, I think we go ahead and wrap this thing up. Probably our longest podcast of the football season so far here today, but obviously there was a lot to talk about with Tim Banks firing, potential names that Tennessee is going to get, the Music City Bowl, and of course the early signing period from last week. As always, you can find this show right here and all of the shows in the Rocky Top Insider Network over at the Rocky Top Insider YouTube page. That is the Rocky Top Insider on Press Pass in the middle of the week. That is the RTI Lowdown with Chris Lowe and Bob Baskerville on Sunday nights. That is RTI Pancakes and Bacon with VFL Kyler Kerbyson and Reed Bacon on Monday mornings. And our newest show, the RTI Rim Runner with our own Ryan Shumpert and Bob Baskerville, talking a little bit about Tennessee hoops. That is, I'm just going to say midweek. There's not necessarily a set date. There probably will become one once the SEC basketball season starts rolling. But another great show in case you hoop heads want to get in your hoop fix about Tennessee basketball, SEC basketball, and the college basketball landscape as a whole. As we're recording this here on Wednesday morning, I believe there's going to be an all-new episode of the RTI Rim Runner out very soon, so stay tuned to that as well. You can go and check out all those on the Rocky Top Insider YouTube page or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Also want to give a shout out to our great partners over at WATE. What a great team they have over there covering a lot of local sports. Obviously, it's been a big season for high school football lately. They've had everybody covered down in Chattanooga with the state championship games. but we are so fond of what they do. We are happy to be partners with them. You can go and check them out on social media. You can go and check out their website, obviously the channel on TV, but we also want to direct you to the WATE 6 Plus Smart TV app. You can go and download it on your smart TV. Super simple. Just go to your TV's app store, search WATE 6 Plus, and obviously it'll be right there. A great way to stay in tune with East Tennessee local news coverage and obviously the sports coverage that we've been talking about so far. Guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. As always, head over to RockyTopInsider.com for all of the latest Tennessee athletics news, notes, and content. We will keep you updated on everything over there. You can follow at Rocky Top Insider on all social media channels. That is Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, keeping you updated with all the local news, all of the latest news for Tennessee athletics. That right there in the top right, that is Ryan Schumpert. You can follow him at rshump00. That's SCHUMP00. That at the bottom middle is Ryan Sylvia. You can follow him at Ryan T. Sylvia. Even though we think he might have dragged our numbers down a little bit by bailing on the show, you can go and follow our good friend, your good friend, Jack Foster, doing great work over at Omaha Productions, a key member of the RTI Diamond Pass, at Jack Foster Media. And if you want to follow myself as well, you can do that at Rick_Butler. Otherwise, lots going on over at RockyTopInsider.com. Stay tuned to the website each and every day, but we are going to wrap up and get out of here on that. For Ryan Schumpert, for Ryan Sylvia, I am Rick Butler. Thank you for listening to the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass Podcast.